Well, right now in a brand new hour of Happening Now, some new developments in the trial of a teenage boy accused of setting another boy on fire. Will he now take the stand? We're going to take a closer look at that. Well, right now, a teenage victim allegedly doused with alcohol and set on fire says he thought he was going to die. This was a big case out of Florida. On your right is the victim who jumped into a pool to save his own life. He has burns over 65% of his body. On screen left is the alleged ringleader of the attack, who is now charged with attempted murder in the second degree. Tom Caniff is a former prosecutor. John Manuelian is a criminal defense attorney. And so, John, starting with you as the side of the defense, there was two other boys that pled no contest to attempted murder charges. Why do you think they allowed this to go to trial?
I think they're arguing the intent. I think the intent of Mr. Mathew Bent and what he was intending to do with Mr. Michael Brewer. Was he intending to burn him alive, or was he intending to commit maybe perhaps an aggravated assault or an aggravated battery? So I think that's what they're going to argue to the jury. Do you think that'll be effective, Tom?
Well, you know, the one thing the defense has going for it in this case is that the defendant who's standing trial, Mathew Bent, Jenna, you know, he never doused the victim with the rubbing alcohol, and he never lit the match. However, under Florida law, if you're the mastermind, if you possess the intent and you take any action in furtherance of that, you could be charged as a principal, and that's what the prosecutors are doing in this case. And they're going to argue to the jury that, you know, but for the evil intent, the evil actions of the defendant in masterminding this whole horrific act, the victim's life would not be forever changed. And I mean, the facts of this case are so egregious that I think the prosecutors actually have a really, really strong case.
Yeah, but the facts have been fudged a little bit. And Tom, let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Michael, the victim, previously said that there was a big disagreement over some video game, a Little Mermaid video game, in fact, is what he said this was all over. But when he took the stand, he said it was over something else related to drugs, and it didn't have anything to do with that video game. And so he admitted to lying about the whole reason why there was an altercation at all. So how do you think that affects the prosecution?
Well, Jenna, you know, you have to look at, yes, they caught him they caught the victim in inconsistencies. And remember, Florida has pretrial depositions in criminal cases. They're one of the only states that do that. But you have to look at what the inconsistency, what it relates to. It really relates to a tangential fact in this case. The actual facts of the crime aren't very much in dispute. And I think the defense risks overplaying their hand in this case because, remember, the sympathy the jury is going to feel for this victim, anyone would feel for this victim, is going to be so overwhelming. If the defense looks like they're badgering him against tangential points that don't really relate to the crime itself, they risk a tremendous backfire and tremendous backlash against their clients.
John, how would you handle it?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a collateral issue. I wouldn't attack the victim. I mean, the fact that he may have or may not have been talking about the Little Mermaid video is not the key issue in this case. The key issue in this case is whether or not this person, Mathew Bent, wanted to burn Michael Brewer alive. The argument should be that these are just young kids that were basically taking things too far, may have committed an aggravated battery, but it doesn't rise to the level of attempted murder because, think about it, an attempt is something, an act to do something that brings out the natural consequences of something that you specifically intended. Did Mathew Bent specifically intend to burn Michael Brewer? That is the only issue in this case, and attacking the victim is not going to help.
And John, a quick final thought on that. Would you actually put Mathew on the stand to answer a direct question? Did you intend to kill Michael? Would you have him answer that directly in court before closing arguments, which could be potentially today?
No, because under Florida statute, they do not have a specific intent law, and I think if it's convicted, look, the attempted murder charge assumes in Florida that he wanted to do, the consequences were a part of his actions. There's no specific intent jury instruction like in California, so it's very dangerous to put him up on that stand. I think he's going to be convicted because of the law, because I believe the law is invalid on its face, but on appeal they could argue that Mr. Bent didn't have the specific intent to kill him, and hopefully if it's overruled, then yes, that testimony may be helpful on appeal, but for the immediate purpose of this trial, I don't think it's going to be that helpful.
Well, and the big, you know, taking a step back, you have many young lives very affected by the incident, whatever is actually found out in court. You have lives that are irreversibly changed at such a young age. Tom and John, thank you very much. We'll watch for the results of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.